Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the Live Train Form podcast. I'm your host, Sean Kober, and joining me for the second time today is Marshall Officer, who is the OG of the Coaches Corner. You're actually the first Coaches Corner episode that I did, Marshall, some 10 months ago, mate.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, mate, how you been?
Yeah, not too bad. Just living with lockdowns and coaching. That's life these days, I think.
Yep, yep. Just for new audience members that may have come on board since our last chat, Marshall is the owner-operator of Anvil Training and Development. Can you just give the audience a quick introduction to Anvil, who you guys are and what you guys do, mate?
Yeah. Look, we're a veteran-owned business. A couple of one-hour guys who just got together and decided they wanted to do their own thing when it came to coaching people. We mainly focus on powerlifting. That's pretty much our number one thing. But we work hand in hand with a psychologist. We're all about supporting veteran mental health. We're all about supporting physical health, and then we also have a part of the business that sells training equipment online, custom training belts, wrist straps, that sort of thing. So yeah,
Yeah, your training belts are sick, mate.
they're actually going pretty well. Yeah, people love them.
Yeah. Nice, nice. For the audience as well, Marshall is one of those guys that I met on the veteran heavy yoga course at the start of last year. That I was luckily enough, had the time off to go back to Australia, do that yoga course, and then got back to Thailand and got locked down like 10 days later. So
Yeah.
Marshall's one of the dudes on that course, which was awesome for networking, awesome for meeting another, a group of veterans that I could use as part of my network. And Marshall and I have spoken over the last year and a half or so, and I've written an article for him and shared a lot of his content with some of my guys as well. So love what you guys are doing in the veteran space, mate. That's something I want to kick off the episode with. Obviously, with the last week and a half, 2 weeks, what's happening in Afghanistan with the Taliban pretty much rolling straight back into Kabul, and the security forces falling to pieces over there and Taliban taking control. I know a number of my mates have been hit pretty hard with that, with thoughts of, well, it was all a waste of time. Why did we lose our guys? We've had a number of guys that we lost that came back, missing limbs and things like that, came back different people. And we've also had a number of people that have taken their own lives since we returned from that conflict. So, I totally understand where a lot of these guys are coming from, where they're kind of angry and they're asking, was it all worth it, etc., etc. What have you experienced from your end, mate?
Well, it's an emotional topic. It's completely fair to be angry about something that most of these guys put a significant amount of time and energy into. It's something that a lot of people, you don't serve and not be passionate about it. I don't think I met a single person. I mean, you might leave jaded, or you might get out and have no interest in ever going back. But that doesn't mean that while you were in, you weren't extremely passionate about the job you're doing, especially the guys that I served with and went overseas with. Everyone was passionate about the job we went there to do. Everyone was passionate about the job we'd trained to do. And I think that's one of the key points that I think, as people with some kind of voice in the veteran community, as people that other veterans are going to tune into and maybe pay attention to, the first thing that you need to get out there is let them know it wasn't a waste of time. If you went over to do the job that you trained to do, if you went over to protect your mates, if you went over there and your mates protected you or did the absolute very best they could, there's no time wasted whatsoever. It is pretty tough, I think, seeing what's going on with the country, especially in this day and age where we have unprecedented access to media, and like we're basically getting a minute by minute rundown of what is happening in the withdrawal. Like that's never happened before. Not the internet has never been at a point. Media has never been at a point. I mean, we got Taliban on Twitter. We can follow what they're doing based on their tweets, which is like, it's crazy. That's never happened
Yeah.
before. So it is a pretty unusual time for the veteran community, I think, because they've been given this really clear window into the end of a military operation and just how confusing and, I don't know, disastrous or just like unplanned it can be. Like, uh, I'm absolutely no expert on the war in Afghanistan. I have done a postgraduate certificate on counterterrorism, on security, so I have done a little bit of university study in this area that sort of crosses over with my time served. But what's happening over there with the withdrawal is, well, now that it's over, it's day one. No more US in Afghanistan as of today. But
Really?
yeah. So
Is
today's
that is
day
that
one.
including all of? Okay, that's
Yeah.
including all of the like evacuation personnel and
Yep.
everything.
Yeah. Today
Wow.
is day
Okay.
one in Afghanistan. That's solely US free.
Okay. We're recording
Um,
this on the 1st of September for those listening as well, because I'm not
yeah.
exactly sure when this is going to drop.
Yeah. And that was the deadline that the Taliban gave the US. Was 31st of August. Said be out by this date, or there'll be consequences. Obviously, some shit happened. ISIS decided to chip in, as they like to do, and there was that horrible loss of life, which is just really sad to see. Um, and as far as withdrawals go, I mean, so many people have made connections between this and the fall of Saigon. I was talking to someone on a Zoom chat the other day that actually like lived there at the time and watched it happen on the news.
Wow.
And he said that it was crazy watching what was happening on the news with Afghanistan and just how similar it was with the US withdrawal of Saigon in Vietnam. So, I mean, that kind of makes me feel like withdrawing from a conflict so long and drawn out and difficult as the one we've been in is something that is very hard to get right. Um, and I think with all that confusion and sort of uh, with all the media coverage of what's going on, I think the veteran community really does need to focus on the fact that they did the job that they were sent over there to do, and that is not a waste of time. You went over there, you protected your mates, or you did your very best. And those guys that unfortunately lost their lives over there, they were doing the job they were sent over there to do, that they were passionate about, and they were doing their very best job to protect their mates in turn. I think we need to look at it from a perspective of, um, you know, they did, they were doing the right thing. Everything that they did was the right thing to do, um, and we can't fault that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, just to echo that as well. I mean, the way that I look at it is, we were there for 20 years
Mm,
and the Taliban were not in control for 20 years, and that gave the local people a look at what life could be like,
absolutely.
and it's been pretty crazy to see, you know, going back to the withdrawal, man, like as you said, it's going to be very fucking difficult to get right, particularly in those circumstances, because what was happening? Look at like a month ago, right? A month ago, it was like, all right, it was like on fringe news, like, all right, the
Mm,
Taliban's taken control of these smaller cities,
yeah,
all right, and then it's like now it's fucking, surrounding this city. Now it's captured
yeah,
this prison, and it's just let all the prisoners out and fucking blah blah blah. And then like within like 10 days or something, man, like Taliban surrounded Kabul, and it's like
mm,
what the fuck, man? Like they
yeah,
literally just marched through the entire country, just fucking taking villages, towns, cities, provinces,
yeah,
like, and they captured the whole country within like what seemed like a couple of weeks. I'm sure there was a lot going on behind the scenes, and there was like a lot of lead up going into that.
mm,
Um, but that's from what I heard, man. It was like 2 to 3 weeks, and Taliban had just like marched through the entire fucking country and taken control. So, it's pretty difficult to come up with a evacuation plan when events unfold so rapidly like that, and the security forces deteriorated as fast as they did.
yeah, yeah. I mean, uh, looking at what was happening over in the US at the same time, you've had a massive change in leadership. between the Trump administration and the Biden administration. Um, they've said that, I mean, even Trump said he wants to be out of Afghanistan by whatever date. Biden's administration has obviously continued that. And as far as I'm concerned, I think leaving was probably the right thing to do. I think that we would, I mean, as Australians, there wasn't a huge contribution towards the end there, towards the way the country was going. My experience over there, it looked like we were fighting a losing battle with the ANA anyway.
Yeah.
And that's just my perspective. It might have been different from the top down, but from what I could see, it it was an uphill battle every single day trying to get these people to, I don't know, work harder for their country rather than just for themselves,
Yeah.
which was hard to see. But I mean, it was clear from where I was sitting here watching the news, as you said, over like a 2 week period, that the US just wanted to be done with it. They wanted to wash their hands of the whole thing, and it from that day onwards, it was like, well, if we're done with it, that I mean, what kind of confidence could the ANA have in the face of, like you said, a military force moving very quickly across the country, taking city after city, and I did talk about this on one of our live streams. On one side you've got the Taliban who are moving quickly and having quite a lot of success, so they would have pretty high morale. And on the other hand, you've got the ANA who are losing all of their support. All of their close air is gone. All of their training support is gone. All of their leadership support is leaving, and so they're already thinking that they can't win. They're sitting there just going, well, why fight if we can't call the Apaches, if the US can't call the airstrikes, if the drones aren't going to be there? So they're already ready to give up, basically. And we saw what happens when you've got a side that is full of high morale, and a side that is the complete opposite. It doesn't take very long for that situation to deteriorate very quickly.
Yeah, mate, you make a really good point there, and this is something that I saw whilst I was there as well, was like some of the ANA guys that we worked with were really fucking solid, right? But we didn't unfortunately get to work with those guys for very long because we did our job, we mentored them, they were highly motivated, they had good leadership, so then they would go off into other areas, other provinces to fight the Taliban and fucking, do their job, maintain security of the local populace, right? So then we get these new guys come in, and most of these guys were young, they had poor leadership, and they had never experienced like life under the Taliban regime. So they were really fucking lazy, to be honest. Like, they didn't want to patrol, they didn't want to go out, they just wanted to sit around and fucking smoke weed and get high all day. They didn't want to do anything. Like, they were literally there so they could get, a roof over their head and fucking, get fed. And they weren't motivated to do anything. And unfortunately, from my perspective, like, that's the majority of the ANA guys that we worked with, and every time we got into a sticky situation, these guys would just fucking put their tail between their legs and run off, mate. Like, they literally ran off from firefights, man, like leaving us Australians there on our own to fend for ourselves, mate. And there was, we had an insider attack within the last couple of weeks of our 9-month deployment. We had an Afghani National Army soldier like turn his rifle on our cook, mate, murdered our cook. And then we came home a couple of weeks later, there was another insider attack. So that stuff was happening through my era and my generation, but again, looking at the Afghanis that weren't motivated, that looked at us as, all right, well, these guys, they have this, superior firepower, good leadership, capability, etc., etc. They looked at us and just assumed that we were always going to be there, and they acted accordingly, man. So once coalition forces actually left, and they realized that, hey, maybe we should take our job a little bit more seriously and fucking put in some more effort to learn how to be able to maintain security and stability of our own country, like, so as you said, degraded quite quickly, and it's a shame to see, bro. But the positive that I can take away from it is, as I said before, you've got a generation or two of Afghanis that have seen what life could be like. So
Yeah.
hopefully that causes some form of resistance. I heard something about the Northern Alliance kicking off again,
Yeah. They're being
starting to
led
build
by,
troop numbers, and
I think,
yeah,
vice president has taken it upon himself. And maybe the son of one of the dudes that was the head of the Northern Alliance when they first
yeah.
went in,
I think it
that
was
the US
Shah
used.
Ahmad Massoud or something. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I might have butchered that name, but
Yeah, I think, and I mean, we can talk all day about our opinions on the ANA and their leadership and the Taliban and our opinion of that organization and ISIS and whatever. But I think the most important thing isn't what's going on over there for the veteran community here in Australia. It's them knowing that they can reach out and get the support that they need. This is a really tough thing to watch happen, especially when it's really, really hard to look at it from an objective point of view. Like, unless you have some kind of serious detachment from the military, or you've spent a long time studying or whatever the case may be. If you are a veteran and if you served in Afghanistan, you're going to have some kind of emotional link to that place, to the people you were over there with, to probably the guys that passed away, sadly. And so it's really, really hard to not have an emotional reaction watching this stuff on the news, especially when it's being shoved in our face. It's come so soon after all the stuff with SF, and it's such a and there were guys over there with the withdrawal, so we're watching 1RAR troops and AGIs and stuff over there. We can see pictures of them still in the fight. Basically, it's going to be really tough for the Australian veteran community to watch that and not feel something, right? So every single veteran that was a part of that conflict, or every single person that feels like this is bringing something up, it's bringing up anger or sadness or frustration or confusion, those people need to know that they can reach out for support. They need to know that they can go see psychs, that they can reach out to people like Open Arms and all the veteran wellbeing services. There are people you can call. There's Lifeline. You can go see your GP and get hooked up with a mental health treatment plan literally in 20 minutes, basically. And you can get, if you've served one day, you can get free mental health care from DVA. They'll pay for every single session. So those guys and girls out there that are hurting or that are feeling some kind of emotion at what's going on over there, which is completely fair. It's totally understandable. It's a tough thing to watch. You can talk to someone. That's what everyone should be. That's what the whole veteran community should be pushing, as far as I'm concerned. I think there's going to be enough people talking about how fucked the situation is and fuck the Taliban, all that stuff. I think I think the main focus needs to really be on these guys and girls can get support. It's there, and this is the perfect time to take advantage of it, because it's a tough situation, and if anything's going to bring up negative emotions about your service, it's something like this. So go see someone, go get that support.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't echo that sentiment enough, and we could go down the rabbit hole of talking about all the SF stuff that's happened over the last year or so, but yeah, we'll probably leave that for another time.
Yeah.
Be a long conversation.